Hey everybody, welcome back to Premier Business Coaching and Consulting channel. Well, I can offer you some practical advice for entrepreneurs, and especially if you're a female in business, mom, wife, solopreneur, all of the above. Um, Today, I was able to do a quick local interview for our local paper and television station on YouTube called Moho TV, and they asked some very interesting questions. A lot of it was about Ladies Let's Launch, but one of them that really stood out was, how do you find the time as a wife, mother, um, someone who has a full-time job, and jump into starting a business? And a huge misconception about people who get into entrepreneurship, um, once they've made it and you see them on their Instagram pages or YouTube channels or whatever, talking about this freedom and all this free time. And I think, yeah, that probably comes with everything, but it's definitely not in the beginning. Um, I remember even looking into a Chick-fil-A franchise. If you buy a Chick-fil-A franchise, you have to agree to quit any job you have and work at that place full time. And full time means sun up to sundown, 6 days a week. So you can learn the ropes in every single station and be able to train people. And that usually goes on for a year, maybe two, before you have that owner of a lucrative Chick-fil-A, because all of them pretty much are, right? Who doesn't like Chick-fil-A? Um, Being able to enjoy some of that free time. So that's like 2 years, right? For that major growth. And um, I think it's when you have your own business that you're starting to develop, right? You may have more than the 2 years. Even if you've quit your 9 to 5 and you're doing this on your own, you're definitely putting more hours in than you did on that 9 to 5. Be it, you can put those hours in whenever you want to, super early in the morning, super late at night, scattered throughout the day, to where it appears you might have, oh, they have all this free time to go to a chamber mixer, to um, take some vacation, but or long vacations, and you're probably still working during that time, right? You hear people say it all the time. Um, just recently heard on a podcast, there was on Kev on Stage, who was talking about he'd be on vacation. Yeah, it looks super glamorous, but he's still building his empire and will be somewhere like Dubai answering emails at 2 a.m. because it's regular time here in the States, business hours. And that just all comes with it. It's satisfying because it's yours and you're building it. Um, but it literally takes work. Um, and so that's really a challenge. And the challenge as a wife and a mom getting started in business, I remember um, sitting at the table, after I've taken my notebook and written out, things I wanted to write out about, my About Me section or what I wanted on a web page, and literally trying to build a web page um, myself on WordPress, right? And I'd never done it before. And so I got started on it, got pictures together and all this stuff. And I was literally sitting in the dining room table. It was after everybody ate. It was, after cooking and getting kids ready for bed or what have you. They weren't small, of course, when I started. They were, preteens, teenagers. And so it wasn't the tucking in and all that good stuff, but literally still just making sure everybody's doing what they're doing, ducks in a row. But sitting at that table, clicking through all these, themes and things you need to do to build a website, and it could be like 11. 12 at night and having to get up and go to work the next day. Um, Most of the time I did it on the weekends where I could sleep in if I knew I was going to be up till like midnight, 1 o'clock, trying to figure this out and get this together. I think one of the most impressive things that I wish I would have seen earlier uh, was a um, podcast, Diary of a CEO, one of my favorites. I tell everybody that, Stephen Bartlett. And he had a gentleman on there named Monish Pabrai. Um, and I don't know if I mentioned it on here before, but I tell it to everybody. And he had mentioned and displayed, actually, just very beautifully illustrated it with different blocks and different blocks of time, um, literal Lego looking blocks. I wish I had some here. Um, the blocks of time and the amount of time that you need to put into work. And so if you think and go that you have 24 hours, that's probably backwards. So it's not going to work. Um, 24 hours in a day. I'm going to do it my Sharpie. And you take away, if you're able on a good night, uh, let's not even do 8 hours. If you could get 8 hours, but let's just say most people are getting like uh, 6 hours of sleep, right? And then you do, let me see, you got 18 hours left. I'm trying to get my Sharpie to work. 18 hours. From that 18 hours, you're working a full time job. That's another 8 hours. Now you're down to 10 hours left in your day. In that 10 hours, if you're anything like me, you might be commuting 45 minutes one way, 45 minutes home, and so that's an hour and a half. So let's just stay conservative and say you commute 30 minutes one way, 30 minutes back. Um, and that's not even including the time that you woke up and you're getting ready to go. So let's just stay conservative and do 2 hours after you wake up, right? 2 more hours. Now you're down to 8 hours for the rest of your day. You still have to cook, maybe, um, or order out, or just make sure people are fed. You have to get clothes ready for the next day if you have young children. If you have young children, you are checking over homework. You are checking over personal emails. You are doing all of those things, which can take up to what, when you think about it, say, I just remember getting home at about 5 o'clock, jumping right into doing those things. Let's just say you don't even take 15 to 30 minutes to decompress, right? Um, Jumping right in, having only those 8 hours left, and going straight into cook. You're down to 7, down to 6 hours once you get everybody together and eaten, and you put the plates away or do the dishes, right? Hopefully, you have somebody else doing the dishes. Hopefully, you just leave them there because they'll be there tomorrow. But I know I have some people who are like super anal about that. You have to have your kitchen clean, right? That was my mom. You were not going to bed when I was doing those dishes. 5 hours left, right? So let's say 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. People are going to bed. You are, let's see, 8. Ooh, that's not even 8 o'clock. That's less time than that, right? Um, so let's just say by the time you get everybody to bed, by the time you've settled down, the dishes are put away, everybody's had their dinner, depending on what time you go to bed, let's just say it's 11, 12. Yeah, you could have 5 hours left. How much time are you going to decide to devote to your business? You, it's almost like you go to work figuratively, clock in, you clock out. When you get home as a wife and a mom, you're clocking in again as a mother, as a wife. Then when do you clock that out? It's like mentally you have to compartmentalize and wear these different hats. So let's clock out of that role once everybody's in bed, once everybody's settled down. Hopefully, if you can get it all together, what, 8:30, 9 o'clock. And if you can run off a very little sleep, maybe you have 3 hours to work on something. But at the very least, 90 minutes, right? 90 minutes. If you can devote, and I would challenge people to devote at least 90 minutes to their business a day, right? Especially during the week. Let's just say the 4 days a week. So if you devote 90 minutes, 4 days a week, that's 6 hours. Okay. If you can devote 6 hours during those 4 days, 90 minutes, that doesn't even seem like a lot of time. You can watch a whole 1 hour show in less time than that. Almost a movie. 90 minutes a day, Monday through Thursday, right? Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 2 hours a day. 2 hours Friday night, if you could squeeze it in. Saturday, another 2 hours. Sunday, another 2 hours. 2, 4, 6. That's 12 hours a week you can possibly squeeze in. If you can't do Friday night, 6, uh, let's say maybe 10. So this is one of the things he had mentioned too, because he was in the process of leaving his job. He decided he wanted to do something different. He had been on his job for years, wasn't really getting the promotions he wanted, but started scaling back that extra devoted time that we usually put in for the late calls at work, checking the emails, responding. And he went to his bosses and said, okay, you know what? In 3 more months, I'm out of here. I'm going to start my own business. And they literally mentioned to him that, hey, you know what? We wondered what was going on and what was wrong with you because, you haven't been showing up like you used to. And he said, well, I've been doing my job. And he goes, no, it's not that you haven't been doing your job. You haven't been going above and beyond. And what really stood out to me about that when he mentioned that was that he was still doing his job. They were totally fine with that. He was doing his job. But what they noticed was that he wasn't going above and beyond, but they also weren't compensating him for going above and beyond. They weren't recognizing prior to that that he wasn't going above and beyond. So think about that when you are wanting to build your own business. There are parts of your brain you are going to have to shut down when it comes to your 9 to 5 so you can devote to your own growth and your own learning and your own processes when you get ready to start your own business. Um, and so he mentioned after taking away all of these blocks that you have somewhere between 10 and 12 hours left. He actually mentioned on the weekends, he spent 5 hours on Saturday and Sunday in conjunction with whatever time he had during the week. Um, if you're anything like me and you had small kids or kids in sports, kids in travel ball, any sport, uh, soccer, if you have cheer, all of that stuff, it takes hours and it can take you out of town, right? So kind of be prepared, to adjust those hours any way you want during that week. When you are traveling, if you're driving, bring your journal. If you're not good at typing it out on your phone, I know sometimes that gets tedious for me. Bring your journal, jot down ideas, but at least post ideas are also huge. So, what I would suggest, and thinking maybe I'll jot these down in the notes, is probably, those 1.5 hours, since social media is such a big deal um, and needed right now for businesses and expected for growth. Definitely that 90 minutes, you can do your YouTube videos, you can do posts, you can schedule multiple posts um, and get those out during those short days. And then those longer days where you have more hours on Saturdays and Sundays, devote that time to building, your pages or your marketing or anything like that. One of the things that really helped me was actually setting that boundary, clocking in for work, coming back in this office, and letting everybody know on the other side of this door that, hey, I am going to be in here for a while, or I am going to be in here for 2 hours, because you will have either your kids or your spouse or whoever saying, hey, it's been 2 hours. What's a while? It's been, this one, what's a while? Set that time, make a sign, put it on the door. Adrian at work, available at 10 p.m. Whatever you have to do, right? Mommy's busy. Come back at 10. Go see daddy. Figure it out, because you have to really get in the mindset of that you are doing another job. You are clocking in, putting on your boss lady hat, and going to work. And you have to remind yourself that all of this stuff is not just for you. Although you deserve to, reach your highest levels, you deserve to set the example for your children. You deserve to have this time to dedicate to that. But you also have to remember that everything you're doing is going to benefit your family. If you aren't setting the example for your children financially, that money is still going to go to benefit your family at some point. Um, so I really appreciated that. That was a question that came up. We didn't really address it during our event, but I do know that that is something that everybody struggles with, and not just mothers. Men struggle with that too, but I know for us women, doing those extra things at home really requires us to put in more time and effort when it comes to grocery shopping, doing laundry, taking care of kids, doing, dinner, and all of that good stuff. So shoot, what I started to do was, my kids were older when I started. So it was, hey, what's for dinner? Hey, what is for dinner? Like, somebody figure it out, because I can't think about it right now. Or it'll be leftovers, or it'll be, hey, just, who's ordering pizza, or my husband will take care of it. Um, and I would also, if you can plan your meals, plan your meals. I kind of already had like what, I was going to cook for the week in my head, or I would thought something out. But if something's not thought out, just like on a regular day before you were doing business, what'd you do? You would pivot and order something or make something more simpler. But definitely 100% save the elaborate meals for Saturday night and Sunday night when you have time for that. Um, it's just really, really hard in the beginning, but worth it in the end, right? To be able to have something to show for it, to um, be that example and see the fruits of your labor towards the end. But entrepreneurship in the beginning and entrepreneurship 5 to 10 years later looks 100% different if you were doing it, right, and not making tons of pivots, or everybody's gonna make mistakes, of course, but staying the course and getting it done to where you have something, to show for it. Um, It really takes some hours to do. And yeah, so I was just thinking about that. Wanted to get that out. Stay tuned, of course. We'll see if we have another event coming up. Thinking about putting some stuff together, maybe for the fall time frame. Time is really ticking. So we'll see if that happens or if we're just gonna roll right into the next year. So keep working, keep, every little thing you do makes some growth. It makes progress. Even if that 90 minutes is just sitting and reading about either business or your area, your niche, whatever it is to work on, something that you're learning. But do something every day. It really keeps you motivated and it keeps you going forward, right? We don't want stagnant movements. We want to continue to take action. So, um, yeah, so with that said, just keep going, keep pushing, doing what you do. And during all of it, just show yourself a little grace. All right. Have a great one.